Why do billions of people still use traditional remedies when modern medicine exists? Is it habit, stubbornness, or do they know something? The World Health Organization thinks it's worth finding out. In December 2025, they launched an entire advisory group to test ancient remedies against modern clinical standards. Today, we're looking at 6 of those remedies: honey, ginger, turmeric, and 3 more. What the research says, where the proof is solid, and where it falls short. Two-thirds of countries on Earth report that at least 40% of their population still uses some form of traditional medicine. The WHO's new group is using real science, modern technology, and even artificial intelligence to map ancient knowledge against clinical evidence. The National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, part of the National Institutes of Health, has been doing similar work for decades. They've been bridging the gap between traditional wisdom and modern proof. Here's what tends to get lost in the noise, though. Traditional remedies aren't automatically quackery, and they aren't automatically miraculous either. They exist on a spectrum. Some perform no better than a sugar pill. Others formed the actual foundation of modern drugs. The Madagascar periwinkle is a perfect example. It's a plant used for centuries in Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. Today, it's the source of vinblastine and vincristine. Those are 2 drugs that changed the treatment of childhood cancer. So today, we're walking through 6 remedies with deep historical roots. What the science actually says. What works, what doesn't, and where the limits are. Let's begin. Remedy number 1, honey. Not the honey in the plastic bear on your kitchen counter. Medical-grade honey. Products like MediHoney. And if smearing honey on a wound sounds like the Dark Ages, you should know this. The FDA has approved honey-based medical devices. They're approved for diabetic foot ulcers, leg ulcers, pressure ulcers, burns, traumatic wounds, surgical wounds, and chronic wounds. That's not folklore. That's federal regulatory approval. The history goes back thousands of years. Archaeological findings and early written records confirm it. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all used honey to treat wounds. Cultures across the globe, separated by oceans and centuries, arrived at the same conclusion on their own. Honey heals, and now we understand why. The mechanism is elegant. Honey is acidic, so its low pH directly stops bacterial growth. But unlike antibiotics, which attack a bacterium's cell walls, honey takes a completely different approach. It starves microorganisms of water. The low moisture content and high sugar concentration create what's called an osmotic effect. That means honey physically pulls water out of bacteria. It dehydrates them to death. Studies have shown that honey blocks dozens of different bacterial species. That includes Salmonella, Escherichia coli, Helicobacter pylori, and Shigella. And here's where it gets especially relevant for modern medicine. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria are becoming an urgent crisis. Honey has made a comeback in clinical settings for exactly that reason. Bacteria don't develop resistance to honey the way they do with standard antibiotics. Systematic reviews and Cochrane analyses have ranked medical-grade honey dressings as the most effective wound care product available. They outperform povidone iodine, silver dressings, enzyme-based products, and even larvae therapy. Not all honey is the same, though. Manuka honey comes from the flowers of the Manuka bush in New Zealand. It contains antibacterial agents in much higher concentrations than other types. The key compound is methylglyoxal, also known as MGO. That's what gives Manuka honey its unique germ-killing power. It clears wound debris, keeps the area moist, controls swelling, speeds up healing, and sterilizes the wound. It's especially effective against antibiotic-resistant bacteria. One more thing worth knowing. When antibiotics arrived in the 1940s, honey fell almost completely out of favor in Western medicine. Doctors had their new miracle drugs. An ancient remedy seemed outdated by comparison. But as antibiotic resistance has grown into a serious global threat, science came back to honey. Remedy number 2. Ginger. Ginger has been used for over 5,000 years. The Indians and Chinese grew it as a tonic root. They used it for colds, nausea, arthritis, and migraines. And here's a curious fact. Ginger doesn't grow in the wild. Its true origins are a mystery. It only exists as a farmed plant. That means humans have been growing and using this root for so long that its wild ancestor may no longer exist. The research on ginger is massive. A systematic review looked at 109 randomized controlled trials. That means studies where participants were randomly assigned to either the treatment or a control group. The review found consistent support for ginger. It's effective for nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. It reduces swelling, it improves digestive function, it helps with metabolic syndromes, and it shows promise against colorectal cancer markers. The nausea evidence is the strongest. This is probably ginger's best documented use in all of recorded history. Research has shown that just 250 milligrams of ginger daily for 4 days can sharply reduce nausea and vomiting in pregnant women. That's a tiny dose for a measurable clinical effect. Ginger contains over 400 natural compounds. The most important are the gingerols, especially 6-gingerol and 8-gingerol. These compounds help with something called gastrointestinal motility. That's just the rate at which food moves through your digestive system. Eating ginger encourages smoother, faster digestion. That's why so many cultures, independently, adopted it as a stomach remedy. The safety profile is reassuring. Ginger is well tolerated by most people. Side effects like mild diarrhea, heartburn, or stomach irritation only show up at doses of 6 grams or higher. For context, that's about a tablespoon and a half of fresh ginger root. Far more than most people would eat in one sitting. Remedy number 3. Aloe Vera. The Egyptians called it the plant of immortality. The Greeks saw it as a universal cure. Queens Nefertiti and Cleopatra used it in their regular beauty routines. Even the name tells a story. Aloe comes from the Arabic word aloe, meaning shining, bitter substance. Vera is Latin for true. 2,000 years of use across Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Indian, Mexican, Japanese, and Chinese traditions. And science now backs up much of what those civilizations believed. The aloe vera plant contains roughly 75 nutrients and over 200 active compounds. Those include amino acids, sugars, enzymes, vitamins, minerals, saponins, anthraquinones, lignin, and salicylic acid. One compound stands out. It's called acumanin, a type of polysaccharide, which is a complex sugar. Acumanin helps regulate the immune system, works as an antioxidant, and supports tissue repair. The burn-healing evidence is strong. A review of experimental studies found that aloe vera could shorten healing time for first and second-degree burns by about 9 days. 9 days faster than standard medication. It also helped prevent itching and infections during recovery. Clinical trials showed that aloe vera sped up tissue growth in burns, helped heal cesarean wounds, and supported faster recovery at skin graft donor sites. And it's not just skin. A 2022 review of 9 randomized controlled trials found that aloe vera speeds up the healing of mouth ulcers better than other treatments. A study of 152 schoolchildren found something impressive. After 4 weeks of using an aloe vera mouth rinse, plaque, gum disease, and mouth bacteria dropped to levels matching chlorhexidine. That's the clinical gold standard for mouth rinses. A 2021 study confirmed that aloe vera mouthwash works as well as chemically made versions. Even in 2024, new uses are being tested. A double-blind clinical trial found that aloe vera mouthwash can reduce the severity of radiation-induced oral mucositis. That's a painful condition affecting cancer patients getting radiation treatment. Remedy number 4, turmeric. We're really talking about curcumin here. It's the yellow pigment found inside turmeric root. People have used it for thousands of years in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine. They used it for skin problems, breathing issues, joint pain, and digestive trouble. And the modern research is extensive. Many studies, both in the lab and with real patients, have shown that curcumin is safe and well tolerated. It works against swelling and oxidative stress. It helps with metabolic syndrome, arthritis, anxiety, and high cholesterol levels. The arthritis evidence deserves extra attention. A systematic review and analysis of combined results concluded something striking. 8 to 12 weeks of standardized turmeric extract, typically 1,000 milligrams per day of curcumin, can reduce arthritis symptoms. The improvements were comparable to ibuprofen and diclofenac sodium. Think about that. A plant compound performing on par with 2 of the most widely used anti-inflammatory drugs on the planet. The Arthritis Foundation now recommends 500 milligrams of curcumin extract taken twice daily. That's their guidance for managing symptoms of both osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. But there's a catch, and it matters. Curcumin taken by mouth is poorly absorbed. The body breaks it down fast and pushes it out quickly. On its own, very little actually reaches your bloodstream. This is where one of the most remarkable findings in natural medicine comes in. Piperine is the main active compound in black pepper. When you combine it with curcumin, absorption jumps by 2,000%. That's not a typo. 2,000%. Your ancestors who cooked with both turmeric and black pepper may not have understood the chemistry. But they stumbled onto something real, also worth knowing. Turmeric powder contains only about 2% curcumin. Supplements contain roughly 95%. So if you're relying on the turmeric in your curry for healing effects, you'd need an unrealistic amount. Supplements made with piperine are the practical choice for real clinical benefit. As Mary Eve Brown at Johns Hopkins Medicine puts it, curcumin has many biological activities, not all of which are fully understood. Like other colorful plant-based foods, turmeric is rich in phytonutrients. Those are natural plant compounds that may protect the body by neutralizing free radicals and shielding cells from damage. One caution: turmeric supplements may raise your risk of kidney stones, especially if kidney stones run in your family. Talk to your doctor about that. Remedy number 5, elderberry. Elderberry has been used in folk medicine for centuries. People turn to it for the flu, colds, sinus infections, and many other conditions. The science is promising, but it comes with real caveats. A study from the University of Sydney showed that compounds in elderberries can directly block a virus from entering and copying itself inside human cells. At the same time, elderberry strengthens the body's immune response. Dr. Golnoush Tarabian, one of the researchers, put it plainly. The common elderberry has a strong, direct antiviral effect against the flu virus. It blocks the early stages of infection by targeting key viral proteins. Those proteins are responsible for the virus attaching to and entering your cells. A combined analysis of 4 clinical studies found strong results for standardized elderberry extract, especially the brand Sambucol. It reduced respiratory symptoms in people with both the flu and the common cold. In one study, 93.3% of people taking elderberry reported major improvement in flu symptoms within 2 days. The control group took 6 days to reach the same point. People with colds saw about 2 fewer days of illness and noticeably milder symptoms. Here's where honesty matters, though. The elderberry studies were small. 3 of the trials had fewer than 65 participants. Follow-up periods were 16 days or less. And 4 out of 5 studies were funded by the product manufacturer. That doesn't erase the findings, but it does limit how confidently we can apply them broadly. More independent studies with larger groups are needed, also critical. Raw elderberries are toxic. They must be properly processed before you eat them. This is not a remedy where you go foraging and improvise. And elderberry is not a substitute for the annual flu shot. Remedy number 6. Garlic. Garlic has been used as both a preventive and a healing agent for thousands of years. Ancient Egypt, China, Greece, Rome, and India all relied on it. Its active compounds, especially allicin and ajuin, have shown anti-cancer, anti-diabetic, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antimicrobial, immune-boosting, and heart-protective properties in lab studies. The immune system research is worth a closer look. A study on aged garlic extract found something interesting. After 45 days of taking it, certain immune cells grew in number and became more active. After 90 days, the total number of illnesses wasn't very different between groups. But the garlic group got milder colds and flus. They had fewer symptoms, fewer days feeling off, and fewer missed days of work or school. There's a practical tip hidden in the chemistry here. Garlic contains a compound called alliin. When you crush or slice garlic, alliin converts into allicin, a powerful antibacterial compound. But most people don't know this next part. Crush your garlic and let it sit for 10 minutes before cooking. This gives allicin time to fully form. Heat breaks down allicin, but if you let it develop first, more of the beneficial compounds survive the cooking process. The honest limitation with garlic is this. Animal studies are strong, but human clinical trials remain scarce and weak in design. They tend to be short and involve small numbers of people. The promise is real, but the proof at clinical scale is still being built. I want to close with a story that ties all of this together. More than 3,500 years ago, someone chewed on the bark of a willow tree. They noticed their pain faded. The Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Egyptians, and eventually Hippocrates himself all recorded this effect. Native Americans chewed willow bark for the same reason. A continent away, centuries apart. In 1763, an English clergyman named Edward Stone formally described willow bark's power to cure fevers. By 1828, a researcher named Johann Buchner isolated the active compound. He named it salicin, from the Latin word for willow, salix. And in 1897, a chemist named Felix Hoffmann, working for Bayer in Germany, created a more effective version. They called it aspirin. By 1900, it came in tablet form. By 1915, you could buy it without a prescription. Today, 40,000 metric tons of aspirin are consumed worldwide every single year. From tree bark to one of the most widely used drugs in human history. That is the arc of traditional medicine meeting modern science. Not every folk remedy will become the next aspirin. Many won't survive tough testing, but some will. And the 6 we covered today, honey, ginger, aloe vera, turmeric, elderberry, and garlic, represent something real. They sit at the crossroads where ancient wisdom and modern evidence meet, where thousands of years of human observation are being confirmed, refined, and sometimes improved by today's tools. As Jeffrey Abbott at the UCI School of Medicine said, "We're doing the hard science to understand how plant-based medicines work." It's satisfying to look at plants used by ancient civilizations and say that we now partly understand how they work. The key word there is partly. The work continues. And that's exactly as it should be. Subscribe. Nature has answers. This is Root Remedy.